Hello there and welcome to this vlog of March 2023, and today's video is just going to be a little bit of like a pre-game warm-up video for the Kickstarter this week. For those BattleTech fans who have been living under a rock for the past like 6 months, there is a new Kickstarter to be announced on Thursday this week. So Thursday the 23rd of March at Adepticon, the BattleTech Mercenaries Kickstarter goes live. I've done like numerous videos on this over the last few months, like predictions, what mechs we're going to get. A lot of stuff has leaked as well, so I've gone through a lot of that data, as have many other like YouTube channels as well. But I kind of want to bring it all together here and just discuss some like final theories, what I think we now will get, won't get, things of that nature. Anyway, do a little bit of a promo first though for the Kickstarter. As I say, I'm sure that like 99%, if not 100% of people watching this are planning on either backing the Kickstarter or certainly know what it is. If you don't know what it is, very simple. You give Catalyst Game Labs some money, sign up to a tier system so you can choose. So you can kind of go in at, they'll probably have like $1 level where you can just kind of get news for the Kickstarter over the next like year. Or you can give them like $50 and you'll get the Mercenaries box set. Or you can give them $5,000 and get what they last termed the full Kerensky, where they flew you out to Seattle, took you for dinner, things like that. So there's a big tier system. I'll probably be running through those tier systems as well as and when we find out what they are, which I imagine will be on Thursday, actually. If the last Kickstarter was anything to go by, they'll meet their target very, very quickly. Again, that's kind of the how Kickstarter works. They will put like a financial level in. So they'll say, well, we'll do this if we meet $1 million, right? And then when they hit that $1 million mark, then they've got like anything excess of that is great for them, obviously. But then they also hit like tiers in that financial table as well, which unlocks certain products for the Kickstarter. So they might say something like, oh, if we get $2 million from everybody, we'll do this Lance pack or this Force pack, or you'll get a free plushie or a dog tag with a Star League emblem on it. Like loads of things like that. So it's kind of an organic thing. It will go on as well for, I'm guessing, about 2 months. So it releases in March. I imagine that it will close around like the end of May. Again, if the last Kickstarter is anything to go by, they may open up like a 2-week window across the summer where they can have like late backers. That all depends obviously on the kind of factories that they're using and when they're going to be putting their orders in, and then they're factoring in shipping and all that malarkey. Last time, for me, the Kickstarter went very smoothly. I know that there were issues across... I remember Australia having quite a lot of issues last time where some people didn't get their packs, although that was quite rare. I do know specifically from this channel, a couple of people had contacted me and said, oh yeah, we got ours very late or didn't get ours, and I don't know if that was resolved, but obviously that's not great. But just speaking for myself here, I think we all put our orders in 2020, which, remember, COVID 2020, so they actually did well, I think, to get it when they did, to get everything out when they did. And I think I got my order, just going on memory here, I think it was September 2021, something like that. So you're talking, depending on when you signed up, if you were a late backer, then you got it within like 9-10 months. If you signed up to it before that, you're talking like a year. I think a year for the amount that you get and the value in the Kickstarter is usually incredible. I'll go through that tier list probably over the next couple of weeks. In fact, I know what I'm like, because it's commercial. I'll probably do it immediately as soon as I get time to record the video and I find out what the tier systems are, because I'd like to kind of just run through where I think the value is for like a miniature collector or somebody who wants to force build. So I remember like in the last tier list, it was broken down as you'd expect. So there were like $50 levels, $100, $150, $300, $500, $600, $1,000, things like that. But it worked out, I think, that the $300 level was the best value. And I did this. Some of you may have done this as well. I signed up to multiple $300 levels because when you worked it out, you absolutely like maxed out the amount of minis that or the mechs that you can get. That's something, just keep that in mind before you purchase it. I know that they've got this thing in which it's obviously it's fine, but they've like, oh, if you back it within within 24 hours, we'll give you a free BattleTech model. Great, but just be careful on that because that's something that's going to cost maybe $5 to $10 at retail if you really want them, and you're only going to get one of them if you back very, very quickly. What I intend on doing is just having a look at all those tier systems, breaking it down, and hopefully as well I can go through that on this channel with you quite early, maybe on Thursday or Friday this week. And so what I'm saying is just don't dive in there and go in right for the $1,000 level. If you've got like $1,000 to spend on it, it's probably worth your while just looking at the lower tier systems and just seeing where you get the most value. Catalyst won't begrudge anyone doing that either because they've obviously costed all this. It's a big promo piece for them as well, the Kickstarter, so it gets a lot of like marketing buzz. So they're not penny pinching on it. They're not thinking, oh, if people do that, we'll be losing money. Not at all. I mean, $1,000 from one like backer is supremely good for them. I think on average they'll probably be getting about 150, 200 for each backer. So if you're going in at one of their like higher levels, the only way I can see that you'd want to really go in at like that, say like that $5,000 level, where you get a lot of stuff. Obviously, you'll get absolutely hundreds of models, but you only get access to those special, unique things like lunch with the Catalyst Game Lab teams in Seattle or whatever else is they've got on offer in terms of a promo piece. If you just want, like me really, you just want the models and you want as many as possible because you've got lots to collect and lots of forces to build, then yeah, just be careful how you kind of go in for it. They will try and kind of rope you in as well with interesting things, and I might fall for this as well. Like they might start, and I'd imagine kind of segues us into what I think we might get here. I think that they'll start doing like proper aerotech like dropships, things of that nature this time. Now, thus far, I have two dropships. You can see them right above my head here. So that's just two, there's a Leopard dropship there and one of the Clan dropships as well, Broadsword. I think they might do that this time, but you'll only be able to get access to them if you kind of go in at a higher tier system. So it's like, oh, you get this free dropship if you go in at the $1,000 level or something like that. I think they did that last time. I think I don't know anyone that got one because I didn't go in at the $1,000 level. I just did multiple 300s. So, but again, then you've got to kind of cost it and say, well, is it worth me spending an extra like $700, not getting as many miniatures, but then getting something I could go and buy from a really decent 3D company, print company, like a big, Union dropship or something like that, which they're not hard to get. I mean, they'll cost you a few $100s, but they'll usually be very good quality. So just be careful about how they market those like tier lists and what levels unlock certain things. It really is dependent on what you want as a consumer. So, if you're just like a casual BattleTech player and you're just like, oh, I'll quite happily just get the Mercenaries box set and, play it once in a blue moon. I just like it on my shelf. I like to read through the rule book and see what they're doing and stuff like that. Then obviously you just go in at the $50 level and that'll get you the core game. You don't have to kind of go in for everything else. Anyway, so prediction time. Well, I've spoken about a lot of these predictions before, but I'll just kind of surmise everything now, really. So this is the Mercenaries Kickstarter. They are drip feeding a lot of stuff through at the moment. If you've kind of been keeping up with the news over the last 6 months, we've now got like multiple Mercenary box sets. They announced multiple like new Lance packs which are not connected to the Kickstarter. The Alpha Strike box, obviously, that's relatively new as well. So that only came out like last November, December. Again, that's not part of the Kickstarter. This is wholly new. It's a complete like unique expansion to basically a game of armoured combat. We don't really know what we're getting yet, though. Some people might be in the know. Maybe I don't know. There'll probably be Reddit threads for it, which I've just not read, which kind of talk about what where we think we're going to get, or what we think we're going to get with this mercenary box set. I personally think it's just going to be combined arms. So I think they'll give a lot of like in-depth rules on, how to use like tanks and vehicles and infantry and things like that. The real question is though, are they going to use the old system for combined arms, or is it getting a refresh? My money is on a refresh, because when they announced the the Kickstarter release date a few months ago, they've got this combined arms beta testing currently underway, which I actually really like the look of. I've only kind of briefly looked into it because I've obviously been moving house over the last couple of months. So I've been really busy. I would have probably done more on that if I'd have had the time to do it. I've heard mixed reactions. A lot of it's like classic players, people who like the original game. I don't think they particularly like it because it makes vehicles very, very squishy. For me though, I'm all about, in terms of tabletop, I think BattleTech is a game about mechs. That's we kind of live vicariously through them on tabletop. There's like an anthropomorphic element to it as well. Vehicles to me and infantry should just be kind of like scattered around as like irritations. Not all vehicles, like some vehicles are more, should be better than others, but like in terms of like vehicles or people wanting to spam vehicles to kind of, for gamesmanship reasons, I'm not keen on. So I'd prefer like vehicles and infantry just to be not so much narrative. I mean, use them in a competitive sense, but they shouldn't ever kind of override the concept of BattleTech's main facet, which is the mechs. And I think in the old rules it does that, unfortunately. So if they can beta test something into existence which makes that less of a problem, then I'm all for that. I know people are complaining though because vehicles can now be destroyed very, very easily, and there's more kind of it's more like an arcade game as opposed to like classic BattleTech where vehicles were they are incredibly strong in classic, because you've still got to kind of get through all their armor. Bad things can happen to them, obviously, if they get like engine hits and things like that, just like with a mech. But generally speaking, I think they are slightly overpowered in general, especially things like hovercraft, because they don't take any, they're obviously, they don't take any skidding penalties or things like that. So yeah, it just needs a bit of a rework, I think, to make them less like obnoxious on tabletop. The Kickstarter, the main kind of box set that the Kickstarter is built around is the Mercenary Pack. In that, we're going to get a multitude of mechs, but we're also going to get 4 vehicles. Again, super interested to see how they do that, just in terms of, are they going to enforce these beta test rules that they've been looking into, or is it just going to be exactly as it was written across like the Total Warfare manual? Again, we'll have to wait to find out, I think, on that. I don't think anyone's going to know that until it's released for sure. But what we do know is that we're getting off the back of this mercenary box set, we're getting several vehicle packs as well. They look fantastic. There are 2 box sets, I think, at the moment. So you get things like that you get things in there like LRM carriers, SRM carriers, demolishers, all the kind of like really famous BattleTech tanks and vehicles, things like that. They look fantastic. I'm going to be honest and say, and I'm probably very, very like contrarian to most people on this, I never cared about vehicles in terms of the new plastics, for the simple reason that like on the shelves behind me I've got like a multitude of like old Ironwind Ralpatha metal tanks, and they're absolutely fine. Yes, the scaling's a little bit small, just slightly too small, but it's not noticeable, it's not too bad. But I think like when you're doing like metal casting, it's really, really easy to metal cast things like tanks because they're quite square. There's not much detail in them. It's really difficult to do something like a mech though, which has kind of got like a humanoid like pose to it. It's a lot more difficult to do that in metal. It's not just the way it's posed either, it's being able to kind of then having to glue together all the the arms and the legs, and if you've ever dealt with metal before you'll know it's a bit of a nightmare. But with tanks it's never like that. You basically just have like a solid ground unit base and then a turret or maybe a couple of things to put on there. I never feel like if I drop a tank by accident, a metal tank, it'll split. If you drop a metal mech, forget about it though. Even on carpet, it'll lose an arm or a leg or a head or something. So I am very much, in the contrarian, not contrarian, but like it's, I'm not in the kind of the camp of this is all about the vehicles. In fact, I'm only, I think, going to get one of each vehicle set. I'm much more interested in the mechs that they're bringing out. We've got like a huge official leak on what we're going to get in the force packs. I've been through all those before, so you can go back, either through me or through other YouTube channels. And I did it in like Excel format, so I just talked through exactly what we were getting. What I want to do though now is just discuss like surprises and anything that I think will be added in there that hasn't been announced yet. So just going to do this ad hoc. I've got like a little list in front of me on things I want to talk about. The first one is the Mauler. Let's get the big elephant in the room out of the way first. So the Mauler is a mech that I think we desperately need. It's the metal mini isn't too bad. Like, it looks fine, but it's just underscaled, which is a problem with a lot of the metal miniatures when you put them with the new plastics. I think some of the metal minis still hold up. I mean, I've got plenty. I've got like hundreds of metals and plastics. But I'm kind of like, I don't know, maybe 40-50% of them I just can't use because the scaling's just really bad. Good examples like the old Quick Draw. I'd love to kind of get Quick Draws in my forces because they're really quite terrible mechs and they give like a lot of flavour to the game because of that. Especially if you've got like pirate forces, things of that nature. But the old Quick Draw model, looks like it's a 40-ton mech. It looks tiny. It looks like a light mech. Then when you put that against like an actual 60-ton mech, which is what the Quick Draw is, it just looks ridiculous. So, like the Mo's not quite that bad, but it's still pretty bad. Like, you still get it and you think this looks like a quarter of an inch too short. It doesn't look bulky enough. It's a very, very popular mech as well. Really kind of made famous by the BattleTech cartoon from the early 90s. You can just see my plastic model there. I have to stretch. That one, there he is. You can just see the side of him there. That is the old Mauler model from the Tycho range. So you can see, I don't know if I can shift this a little bit. Hang on. There you go. There you go. There he is. Just see him now. He's a big boy. And you can see just in regards to the other mechs on there, he's huge, So, like the model on tabletop should like really kind of represent that as well. And I think it's because it's a mech that a lot of people have a lot of nostalgia for. We're just really, really desperate to get it. I'd love to see, there are maybe 24 mechs that I could talk about here that I'm absolutely would love to see. I think the Mauler is certainly at the top of that list. I would imagine most people will have that at the top of their list as well. There are other mechs that I'd like to see redesigned. Again, what I'm going to talk about next is absolutely not going to come in this Kickstarter, but it's kind of just like a wish list thing from me. But there are mechs from like the 3055 up to the Fedcom Civil War era that are really like have very, very bad metal models. They're actually, the concept designs for them are actually bad as well. I'm thinking specifically about the Sai Tsang, which is a mech that I absolutely adore playing on tabletop. It's such a fun mech, it's a Capellan mech. Really, really interesting. But the old metal model is just derpy. It's not the metal model's fault, it's the designer's fault. I think it's one of those mechs that's like, it's had a designer on there who's not really kind of thought about the kind of wider aesthetic of like the BattleTech universe. So the Titan it really stands out when you've got it in a force. It just looks weird. Its legs look weird. It's got this weird axe. It's got a weird head. It's got a weird torso. Everything about it's just weird, and I kind of respect that to some extent. But I just love one of the artists to go and just give a refresh of it and make it just look more like, in fitting with like the modern plastics that they're putting out. Again, we're not going to get the Saitan because it's it's quite a niche mech. It's quite a crunchy mech as well. It's got the old triple strength Myoma in there, which is something I love on tabletop. That and the rotary cannon fives are my two favourite things from that like post clan invasion era that the Inner Sphere come out with. But we're not going to get him, so moving on. I still think that we'll get one surprise pack, right? So I'll talk a bit about what I think that's going to be, and I've already had it. I've already discussed it at length, really, because I've talked before about like the Word of Blake pack. I really, really hope they do it. As time goes on, though, I've become more and more skeptical to a point now where I'm like, yeah, I don't think it's going to happen. I think it really should, though. I think the Word of Blake have got such like a toxic legacy with the BattleTech fandom. But it is a thing, and it's an important thing as well. Like, you can't just dismiss it, really. Even if you only play up to like the Fedcom Civil War era, they're still absolutely active post clan invasion. Eventually they take Terror over, right? So like, you've still got to come across them, and you'll see them a lot in universe, even if you're playing like one of the older like eras in BattleTech. And I just think that they are like really primed for a bit of a rebrand. And I'd like to see that, like they had the Comstar level 2 packs in the last Kickstarter. I'd love to see that with Word of Blake, and just do like those, do the what I'd call like the modern Comstar mechs. So things like the Raijin mechs like that. I've got a list in front of me actually of the mechs that I thought we might get. I'll just check that so I don't get any of them wrong. Yeah, so you got things like the Grand Crusader, the Raijin I've already mentioned, the Nexus as well. I'd love to see those kind of like make an appearance. I think they'd be, it would be interesting for them to do it, and I don't think it's too difficult either, because I think they've got to have some kind of surprise lined up, right? So that'll be like one of their lead announcements will be, and I think it's going to be the Mauler, fingers crossed, but I think as well it might be like, the Mauler might come in like maybe like they did with the Urban Mech, where you get it in like an individual salvage pack, because it is that popular. I think the Mauler that would actually sell really, really well, I think, and just give everyone like one free one if you sign up to the Kickstarter, and then off the back of that as well, you could do like another Force pack. Don't think it'll be Clan. I think it will be Inner Sphere. Like I said, I'm hoping it's Word of Blake, but it might just be another pack that they're just going to announce, and the Mauler might be in that, and then we might just get like a standard, like another Lance pack or something like that they've just kept under wraps thus far. Another mech that I think they should do, and again this might, come about if they have that random pack, is the Berserker. The Berserker is a mech that I like it's actually a really powerful tabletop mech. It's 100-tonner, big axe. It's got this weird like flat Gauss rifle as well in its left arm. It's quite an odd mech, but that's another one with, like, when you look at the old metal model, it really could do with like a bit of an upgrade. Scaling's fine on that model though. I own one metal Berserker, and it's, it suits absolutely fine when it's compared against the other plastics. The other metals and plastics. But generally speaking, I think they should do it, because I've heard a lot of people saying that it was promised during the last Kickstarter and it never got delivered. So I'm hoping that for those people alone, the Berserker gets an appearance. I think that's, again, going back to that point on, like, mechs from like that post-clan era, which it's at a time when BattleTech was in a bit of a weird place when it came to miniatures, so there are many models in like the 3055 TRO where I think that could really do with a rework, and I think the Berserker is certainly one of those. One mech that I've got, like, I think is going to be really interesting to see is the Shogun. The Shogun is a mech that I've always associated with the Wolf's Dragoons. I think we are getting it somewhere, but I don't know how and where, but it's something that I've seen like line art for, and I think people assume that we are getting it, but again, we have no idea where. Are they going to bring out like a second Wolf's Dragoon Force pack maybe? That might be outside of this Kickstarter, so that might be something that they do like next year. That's certainly possible. I'd say that like the if anyone is going to get like a duplicate force pack, it would be the Wolf Dragoons. The Wolf Dragoons are very much like the poster children for BattleTech. They kind of serve the same purpose of like the Ultramarines in Warhammer 40k, in that nobody really likes them if you are like embedded in like the lore and you're really into BattleTech. But it's something it's quite easy for the casual fans to get into because they're very like powerful and they're quite, they're heroic, and they're not necessarily the good guys. Like they do make some very questionable decisions. Like Jamie Wolf's a bit of a duplicitous. Is that a word? There's duplicity to his nature anyway. And then it's got like obviously the wonderful Natasha Kerensky is attached to the Black Widow company that are one of they're kind of like the black sheep of the Wolf Dragoons, so they're a little bit more crazy. They're popular for sure. Like I don't think everyone's ever heard anyone say they don't like the like Natasha Kerensky's Black Widows. Like they're really cool. Obviously, it's just that I think the Wolf Dragoons are a little bit too clean cut. They also they are clans, and they side with the Inner Sphere during the clan invasion. So again, it's that like, having your cake and eat it. Like they want to be heroes to everybody, that kind of thing. So it's complicated. Although I think if you're gonna like basically put money and time behind any force, it really should be the Wolf Dragoons, just because they're so like omnipresent in the universe. They also like transcend lots of eras. So they come around in like they're very much at the end of the Fourth Succession Wars. That's when they have their like little mission to kind of get into the Inner Sphere and see what it's all about. Report all those activities back to the clans before they invade. They then famously kind of go native, if you want to put it that way, with the Inner Sphere, and then side with them against the clan invasion when the clans invade. And then going forward, they have so much to do with like all the politics, like driving the BattleTech universe. They're obviously quite popular as well in like the Succession War era, because like quite famously, they rock up in the Inner Sphere with all these amazing like lost tech mechs from like the Star League era, which the clans just saw as like really old, obsolete, terrible mechs. But when they get to the Inner Sphere with them, everyone's like, "Wow, like where have you been hiding all this?" Which is a bit of an oddity. You think there'd be far more questions asked if like a giant military force just appeared on your borders with lots of this amazing technology. But hey ho. But yeah, it's slightly like, in terms of what the Wolf Dragoons are like in regards to the universe, they are very important, and I wouldn't begrudge them at all getting a second like box set. We already have one. They had the first Lance. Sorry, well, there were 5 mechs in it, so technically it's a star. Wolf Dragoons. There's like a Mad Cat in there. They had the Annihilator in that one, obviously, as well. So we might get like part 2 of that, like in the autumn. It might not be attached specifically to this Kickstarter. Finally, as well, I think we might get another like specialist pack in regards like Legends. So in the last Kickstarter, they released the it was, I'm trying to think who was in that. It was right. So it was Morgan Kell. It was Natasha Kerensky. It was it's not. Yeah, sorry. It was Grayson Carlisle and Aidan Pride. They're the 4th from the legendary Lance pack. So that was a Marauder, an Atlas, a Mad Cat, and a Direwolf. Yeah, it was a Direwolf. It's weird. Like Natasha got the Direwolf when everyone associates the Warhammer, but the Direwolf is the mech that she piloted like post clan invasion. Great pack, that looked great. You got all the like bespoke cards in there as well. I think we're going to get like that part 2. So I think you might see some like other characters coming around. I'm not even going to mention it because there are so many thousands of people in BattleTech you could put in there, but you could like you could do something silly like Hans Davian's Battlemaster or something like that. They've already started to get a bit more creative with it, like the Snords Irregulars box set that's coming out. We're getting the Frankenmech Rifleman in there. So you could do something really daft. I mean, you could do like, is it Red Jack Ryan's Warhammer or something like that, and just really kind of make it weird and piratey looking and go a bit crazy with it. So there are lots of things you could do, but I think we will get something like that. Just for like the novelty value, like last time they did that, they had it as a force pack, but then you got individual salvage packs with like a random one of those 4 mechs and characters that I mentioned just then. So, you can like, yeah, that to me is like good for just getting the lore across with people as well. Because if you've got people who are just kind of casually into BattleTech, and then you get the Aiden Pride Mad Cat, it's like the first thing you're going to do when you get that is read the card, and then you might think, oh, I'll just go on Sana and have a look at this guy, and you read about it and you think, oh, actually that's quite fun, I might collect like a unit for him. So in a way, it's kind of, I think it's good like marketing, good like business development for them to do things like that, and I hope we get that again. So they're kind of my thoughts on the Kickstarter this week. To say that I'm excited about this is an understatement. We were obviously expecting this like 5 or 6 months ago, but it got kicked back into this year, which I'm actually not at all disappointed about, because purely selfishly, the pound is now much stronger against the dollar again. Which means like with the money that I save, like, or that I would have spent like last autumn, I could probably buy another Kickstarter for like $300 for that. So I'm not complaining at all. I'm also like, there are certain people across the community that I have like a lot of time and respect for, that I'm going to buy the Kickstarter for. So obviously, if the exchange rate is more in my favour, the more that I can do on that front. I'll probably be dropping. I imagine that I'll spend about 2,500-3,000 on this Kickstarter. I don't apologise for that though, because I think far too many people in our hobby get like guilty about spending the money, when our hobby is actually relatively cheap to most people's hobbies. Most people have hobbies like, I cite this one a lot. Like I've got a friend who does a lot of like deep sea fishing, which costs like an absolute fortune. You like to hire the boat and all the equipment and stuff like that. Like I spend, I don't know, like a tenth on my hobby that he spends on his. But to each their own. Like he enjoys doing that, I enjoy doing my hobby. So if I have to drop, like £2,000 or £3,000 every few years or whatever, yeah, that's fine. I'm quite happy to do that. I would absolutely advise that you do sign up to it, even if you kind of even if it's like a monetary concern or you're not interested in the miniatures, just like throw them $1, just to kind of keep into the news set on it as well. Because remember that things in BattleTech usually work in like, there's a bit of a symbiotic relationship between like the video games and tabletop. So you'll probably see that like I don't know, like some announcements will come out that like coincide with another. That certainly does happen. There seems to be a lot of connectivity between like the people who made the Harebrained Ski games and Catalyst Game Lab. So just to kind of keep in the loop, like, because I do think that they absolutely talk to each other. I mean, if you look at like Mech Warriors 5, that's the mercenary pack. They've just brought out like an entire mercenary based DLC for Mech Warrior 5, and that came out 2 months before the mercenary Kickstarter. So if you're really into the video games, whether it's like the strategical side of BattleTech or the shooty part like Mech Warrior 5, you might find weird and wonderful things cropping up there. So yeah, like for $1, you get like a listening station and email thing. Not much else to say though, really. That's just like my final thought on this before we kind of take the plunge this week. Just in terms of my content over the next few weeks, I absolutely will be running videos as and when I can record them on like the news. So again, I'm going to go through those like tier lists, talk about the financials of the Kickstarter. Obviously, as well, the main thing is like the final composition of the lances, which we don't know yet. I think we know about 95% of them, but there are still a few like black holes in there. So I'll probably do a video on that as well, just to kind of talk about the absolute final like list of what we know we're getting. Might do a video on swag as well, like what I think's hot, what I think's not. Spoilers, I don't think plushies are hot, but I love all the like little icon stuff that you get. Like you just look right above my head, there's like a little Davian patch. That's from the last Kickstarter. Now I'm going to kind of, all these like shelves back here, I'm going to try and like fill them out with loads of little weird things like that from like the art that you get on the Kickstarter and whatnot. So Yeah, should be fun. They usually do really good swag as well, so that's something to certainly kind of look at before you sign up to anything, because you'll get some pretty amazing stuff coming out of that. Right, going to leave that here, so I'll thank you very much for watching, and I'll hopefully catch you again next time.